Mike Tyson earned more than $300 million during his boxing career. At his peak, he owned multiple mansions, luxury cars, expensive jewelry, and maintained a lifestyle that required full-time staff and constant upkeep. The income was enormous, but so were the monthly obligations. Properties had to be maintained, security had to be paid, and the lifestyle continued whether he stepped into the ring or not. In 2003, despite earning hundreds of millions, he filed for bankruptcy. Ronaldinho followed a different path, but reached a similar place. One of the most famous footballers in the world, he signed major contracts and global endorsement deals. For years, money flowed in at a level few people ever experience. Yet after his playing career slowed, reports surfaced of financial trouble, frozen accounts, lost and assets tied up, while expenses and commitments remained. These stories are often described as personal mistakes, but they show something more practical. They didn't run into trouble because they earned too little. They ran into trouble because their lifestyles required a certain level of income to keep going. When the income changed, the structure couldn't support itself. That's the part many people overlook. Financial security isn't determined only by how much you earn. It's determined by how much your life costs to maintain. So the real question isn't how much money can you make? It's how much income does your lifestyle require you to keep making? In this video, we'll walk through 10 minimalist money rules that change how you think about spending, ownership, and long-term stability. You'll see how limiting accumulation can create real financial margin, lower the income you need to feel secure, and give you flexibility long before traditional retirement. And pay close attention to rule number 7, the lifetime maintenance rule, where every purchase is evaluated not by its price, but by the years of income required to support it. Because financial independence doesn't start with earning more, it starts with needing less. Rule 1. Measure wealth by optionality. Wealth is not what you own, it's what you can choose. Two people earn the same $120,000 salary. One spends $110,000 a year. The other spends $65,000. On paper, they look similar. In reality, one is trapped and one is free. Optionality means you can walk away. You can leave a job that's draining you without panic. You can take 6 months off if a parent gets sick. You can move to a different city for better opportunities. You can say no to a client who compromises your values. That's wealth. The person spending nearly everything they earn has none of that. Even with a 6-figure income, they're one layoff away from stress. Their mortgage, car payment, subscriptions, insurance, and lifestyle demand constant income. The paycheck owns them. Now look at the person spending $65,000. They're saving over $50,000 a year. In 5 years, that's $250,000. Not counting investment growth. That money isn't just a number. It's breathing room. It's negotiating power. It's calm during market downturns. It's the ability to take calculated risks. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A $70,000 SUV doesn't increase optionality. It reduces it. So does the oversized house with the extra $1,800 monthly payment. Every high fixed cost quietly narrows your choices. Minimalists understand this. They measure success by margin, not upgrades. They care less about visible status and more about silent flexibility. Because once you realize wealth equals freedom of movement, something shifts. And the question stops being, can I afford this? And becomes, what choice am I giving up if I buy this? And that naturally leads to the next rule, because optionality only works if you know where the finish line is. Rule 2, define enough before income rises. If you never define enough, your lifestyle will expand to consume every raise. A promotion adds $20,000. Within a year, the apartment becomes a larger house. The reliable car turns into a luxury lease. Vacations shift from road trips to international flights in peak season. Nothing feels extreme. Each step feels earned. But the savings rate stays the same, or worse, disappears. That's lifestyle inflation, and it's subtle. Household income might grow from $90,000 to $150,000 over 5 years. Yet retirement contributions barely increase. Credit card balances remain. Stress remains. The problem isn't income, it's the moving goalpost. Defining enough changes the math completely. Enough might mean a $350,000 home instead of stretching to $600,000 just because the bank approves it. Enough might mean driving a paid-off sedan for 10 years instead of trading up every 3. Enough might mean a wardrobe that works, not one that constantly refreshes. When you set those standards early, raises stop funding consumption. They fund freedom. Imagine spending $70,000 a year and deciding that's sufficient. If income rises to $150,000, the $80,000 difference builds investments, emergency reserves, and future flexibility at an extraordinary pace. 5 years of that gap transforms your financial position more than any bonus ever could. Here's the tension most people don't see. The more you earn without defining enough, the harder it becomes to ever feel satisfied. Because once expenses rise, they rarely fall. Defining enough creates a ceiling on lifestyle and a floor under your peace of mind. Once that ceiling is in place, the real threat becomes something else entirely. How one major purchase can quietly multiply into 10. Rule 3, the lifestyle multiplier effect. Every big purchase brings friends with it. Buy a $40,000 boat. Now you need storage, insurance, registration, fuel, maintenance, and a vehicle capable of towing it. The industry rule of thumb says annual maintenance alone runs about 10% of the boat's value. That's $4,000 a year before it even touches water. Install a backyard pool. The quote might be $60,000. But chemicals, cleaning equipment, higher utility bills, seasonal maintenance, insurance adjustments, and occasional repairs follow. Suddenly, the pool costs thousands per year just to exist. The multiplier shows up in smaller ways, too. Upgrade to a larger home. The mortgage increases, but so do property taxes, utilities, furnishings, repairs, and time spent maintaining it. A 1,000 square foot increase isn't just more space. It's more heating, cooling, decorating, and cleaning. Space is never neutral. Even a $5,000 home gym turns into flooring, mirrors, racks, upgraded electrical work, and ongoing equipment upgrades. What looked like a one-time purchase quietly becomes an ecosystem. Here's what most people miss. The multiplier works in reverse. Sell the boat and you eliminate not just the asset, but the storage, insurance, maintenance, and weekend obligations attached to it. Remove the ecosystem, and entire categories of spending disappear. Minimalists calculate the full chain reaction before committing, because sometimes the true cost of a purchase isn't what you see up front, it's what it triggers afterward. And once you see how purchases expand outward, you start questioning something else entirely. Why replace things that are already working? Rule 4, never upgrade out of boredom. If it works, it stays. That's the rule. Most financial damage doesn't come from disasters. It comes from upgrades that feel harmless. The phone still functions perfectly, but the new version has a slightly better camera. The car runs smoothly, but the latest model has a redesigned interior. The television works fine, but this year's release promises brighter contrast. None of these are emergencies. They're impulses dressed as progress. Consider this pattern. Replacing a $1,000 phone every 2 to 3 years over a 30-year career can easily cost $30,000 to $50,000. That's not including accessories, higher insurance premiums, or upgraded service plans. Invested instead, that money compounds into something far more meaningful. The same logic applies to vehicles. Trading in a paid-off car for a new $700 monthly payment might feel like a reward. But that $8,400 per year, invested at modest returns, becomes hundreds of thousands over decades. Upgrade culture thrives on comparison. Someone at work buys a new SUV. A neighbor remodels their kitchen. Social media highlights constant improvement. It creates a quiet pressure to refresh what doesn't need refreshing. Minimalists define failure clearly. Mechanical breakdown is failure. Inability to perform the required task is failure. Boredom is not. And here's the quiet shift. Once you stop upgrading out of restlessness, cash begins to accumulate almost automatically, which leads to a deeper question, not about discipline, but about design. How do you make the right choice easier than the tempting one? Rule 5. Create friction for spending, ease for saving. Willpower is unreliable. Environment is not. If your credit card is stored in every online retailer, checkout takes 10 seconds. If investment transfers require logging into a separate platform and manually moving money, saving feels inconvenient. Human behavior follows the easier path, so change the path. Delete stored payment methods, remove shopping apps from your phone, unsubscribe from promotional emails that create artificial urgency. Add a 24-hour waiting rule for any non-essential purchase over a certain dollar amount, maybe $100, maybe $300, depending on your income. You'd be surprised what disappears in 24 hours. Most impulse purchases are emotional spikes. A stressful day, a comparison moment, a limited time discount countdown. When you add friction, emotion fades, and logic returns. Now flip the system. Set automatic transfers to retirement accounts and brokerage accounts the same day your paycheck hits. Keep checking balances lean, so excess cash doesn't sit around tempting you. Treat investing like a fixed bill, non-negotiable, paid first. Data consistently shows automation increases savings rates dramatically, not because people become more disciplined, because they don't have to decide. This isn't about restriction, it's about architecture. When spending is slightly inconvenient and saving is effortless, the default outcome changes. Money accumulates quietly in the background. And once your system handles behavior, you can shift your focus to something more revealing, understanding exactly how much you already own. Rule 6. Calculate cost per use. The price tag lies. Usage tells the truth. A $400 jacket sounds expensive, but if you wear it 200 times over 5 years, that's $2 per wear. Now compare that to a $120 jacket worn 5 times before it sits in the closet. That's $24 per wear. The cheap option was actually costly. Cost per use changes how you see everything. Take a $2,000 mattress used every night for 10 years. That's roughly 3,650 nights, about 55 cents per night for something that directly affects sleep, recovery, and productivity. That's extraordinary value. Now look at a $300 kitchen gadget used twice a year. Over the first year, that's $150 per use. Over 5 years, if it's rarely touched, it still may cost $30 or $40 per use. And that's assuming you don't replace it with the newer version halfway through. Streaming subscriptions follow the same logic. 5 services at $15 each is $75 per month. If only one gets consistent use, the others quietly become high cost per use expenses. This rule eliminates emotional buying fast. Before purchasing, estimate realistic usage, not optimistic usage, not I'll work out daily, not I'll cook every weekend. Realistic. Because when you divide cost by truth instead of fantasy, most impulse purchases collapse immediately. And once you start seeing value through usage, you naturally begin asking a sharper question about what already fills your home. Rule 7. The replacement test. Walk through your home and ask one question. If this disappeared today, would I spend money to replace it? Be honest. That bread maker in the cabinet. The fondue set used once. The extra monitor in the closet. The jeans you haven't worn in 18 months. If they were gone tomorrow, would you pull out your credit card to buy them again? For most items, the answer is no. That's the signal. Many possessions stay in your life through inertia. They were impulse purchases, gifts you felt obligated to keep, or leftovers from hobbies that faded. They occupy space, require cleaning, and consume small amounts of mental energy every time you see them. Clutter isn't just visual, it's cognitive. Studies consistently show that visual clutter increases stress and reduces focus, and every unused item quietly competes for attention. You don't consciously feel it, but your brain registers it. Here's where this becomes powerful. Items you wouldn't replace have a negative value. They cost you storage space. In many cities, space effectively costs $30 to $50 per square foot per year when you factor housing expenses. That unused treadmill in a 20 square foot corner represents hundreds of dollars annually in implicit cost. Minimalists remove what fails the test. Sell what has value. Donate what helps someone else. Discard what serves no one. The first few items feel uncomfortable. The next few feel lighter. And once you clear space intentionally, you start noticing a pattern. How quickly new things try to sneak back in. That's where the next rule becomes essential. Rule 8. Rent or borrow before buying. Enthusiasm feels permanent. It rarely is. You decide you're getting into camping. You spend $1,200 on gear, tent, sleeping bags, cooking setup, portable power station. You go twice. Then schedules shift, weather changes, interest fades. The equipment moves to the garage. The pattern repeats everywhere. Photography phase. $2,500 camera and lenses, used heavily for 3 months. Then the phone becomes good enough. Home espresso obsession. $1,500 machine, daily use for 6 weeks. Then back to convenience. Cycling kick, $3,000 bike, 5 long rides. Then it hangs on the wall. Ownership locks in costs before commitment is proven. Minimalists test first. Rent the camping gear. Borrow the camera. Use a makerspace before buying tools. Lease short-term before committing long-term. A few rentals often reveal the truth quickly, whether the interest is real or just novelty. This approach does 2 things. First, it filters temporary excitement from genuine long-term value. Second, It teaches you exactly what you need. First-time buyers almost always overbuy. Too many features, too much gear, wrong specifications. Testing lowers both financial risk and regret. And here's the quiet benefit. When you stop buying for short-lived curiosity, your home stops becoming a museum of past identities. Once you see how much money is tied up in abandoned phases, you start wondering something even simpler. How many things are you actually carrying right now? Rule 9. Count what you own. You can't manage what you don't measure. Most people have no idea how much they actually own. Ask someone how many shirts they have. They'll guess 20. The real number is often 60, sometimes more. Open the closet. Count them. Do the same with shoes, kitchen gadgets, coffee mugs, streaming subscriptions, digital storage plans. The numbers are rarely small. Awareness changes behavior instantly. When you know you own 47 shirts, buying another isn't just one more. It becomes number 48. The absurdity becomes visible. The friction increases naturally. This works beyond clothing. Count how many unused apps you pay for monthly. How many duplicate tools are in the garage? How many small subscriptions quietly draft $9.99 here and $14.99 there? 5 forgotten subscriptions can easily total $600 per year. I've invested over 20 years, that's real money. Minimalists set thresholds. Maybe 30 clothing items total. Maybe 15 books at a time. Maybe a one-in, one-out rule where every new item replaces something existing. Without limits, possessions expand to fill available space. Larger house, more stuff. Extra closet, more clothes. With limits, every purchase requires a trade-off. And that's the point. Counting forces intention. Because once you clearly see what's accumulating, the final shift becomes obvious. Not a massive purge, but a system that keeps accumulation from quietly rebuilding itself. Rule 10. Cyclical decluttering, not annual purges. Big cleanouts feel powerful. They rarely last. You spend an entire weekend purging closets, filling donation bags, and reorganizing drawers. The house feels lighter. For a few weeks, everything stays in place. Then small purchases slip back in. A few online orders, a couple of just-in-case items. 6 months later, the clutter quietly returns. That's the flaw. One-time effort, no maintenance system. Minimalists treat decluttering like budgeting. Ongoing, not occasional. Instead of removing 300 items once a year, remove 3 items every week. Instead of a massive garage overhaul, review one category each month. Clothes in January, kitchen tools in February, subscriptions in March. Small reviews catch accumulation early. Incoming mail piles up, address it weekly. Digital clutter growing, audit apps quarterly. Storage unit filling up, reassess before signing another year. This approach is less dramatic but more durable. It also builds awareness. You start noticing patterns. Maybe you buy more when stressed. Maybe certain sales trigger unnecessary purchases. Maybe certain seasons lead to impulse upgrades. The goal isn't perfection, it's rhythm. When decluttering becomes cyclical, possessions stop expanding unchecked. Space remains intentional. Expenses stay controlled. Mental clarity improves without heroic effort. And when these 10 rules operate together, optional spending, find enough, friction systems, cost awareness, you don't just own less. You own your margin. Key takeaways. Minimalism isn't about owning fewer things. It's about reclaiming control over your financial structure. Most people believe income determines security. In reality, structure does. Optionality comes from the gap between what you earn and what you require. If that gap is thin, stress remains no matter how high the salary climbs. If that gap is wide, even a moderate income creates stability. Defining enough prevents lifestyle drift. Calculating real costs prevents emotional purchases. Designing friction prevents regret. Measuring possessions restores awareness. None of these requires extreme discipline. They require clarity. The deeper shift is this. Every purchase is a trade between flexibility and attachment. When you see that clearly, spending decisions slow down naturally. Over time, the compounding effect isn't just financial, it's psychological. Calm replaces urgency. Margin replaces pressure. If this way of thinking resonates, you're not chasing more. You're building a room, and that room changes everything.